We'll call the June 8th, 2022 Manlius Town Board to order at 6:30 p.m. Councilor Italiano, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So for everyone here and everyone who is watching on a various platform, our town board meetings and many other meetings are hybrid meetings. We do them in person, we broadcast online, the Facebook, YouTube, and to our town website. We do have the ability for folks to join us via Zoom to either participate in a public hearing, open podium, or to just be in the meeting itself. And then next up is we do have open podium, which is a time for folks to come and talk to us for a few minutes about whether it's a comment, a concern, a question, really whatever's on their mind. So we do have Ruth Ann Winchell signed up to, she's on the agenda. If you'd like to come on up.
So today I'm going to talk about a few topics the town plans for autistic people and some things I've done to educate the town's officers. The first topic is how the town can improve summer camps to better support autistic kids. When possible, it is very important to spread the kids out and not have too many kids in one space, especially inside buildings, because it can get too loud easily. It is important that all the staff receive some training on autism, whether or not they are a special education camp counselor or not. This is important because the group counselors and directors still interact with the campers with disabilities, so they need to understand the best ways to interact with the kids and some of their needs. It is important that all the camp workers have training on basic methods of communication with kids with disabilities, including non-speaking kids. The staff also need to be aware that some autistic kids may have slow processing and struggle to comprehend verbal information, which may include directions that are given during games or activities. So it would be very beneficial for the staff to have the directions written out. The next topic is how the town can support autistic people in general. So for you guys, the board members, it can be helpful when you're first elected to have a day where specifically only for people with disabilities, like they can come in and just ask any questions, and maybe you could make little like easy read information sheets about the specific role of the town government, and then just allow them to ask any questions. Because even for myself, I'm still like trying to figure out what specifically you guys do sometimes. And then this is just for anybody in the town. If anybody meets somebody who's autistic, make them feel accepted, respect them, don't underestimate them, and include them. Then the next one is about housing. So if the town ever has the opportunity to build more affordable housing, that is so important because that will allow more people with disabilities to be able to live in our town. It is so important to create more housing programs in our town because people with disabilities who grow up living here should not be forced to move out because there's not housing programs. They should not be forced to live in a city or in a totally different area where they're not comfortable. My next topic is about how I have been working to educate the town of Manlius police officers about autism. I'm very passionate about this topic because I am autistic, and I have a good relationship with many of the local officers. I believe it's important to provide them with accurate, non-ableist information because it's wrong to get frustrated at police officers for doing something if they never had the appropriate amount of training. That's why I think it's good for community members to educate the officers about some topics that they're passionate about and to create information or other resources. And for about a year, I have been sending resources to the officers by email or just kind of talking to them about my own personal experience as an autistic woman, and including sending them some videos of me stimming and such. I have also made them information sheets and a PowerPoint about autism, and most of the officers have been extremely open to learning more extensively about autism, and they understand that many autistic people interact with officers. And some of the information I included in my PowerPoint, which I created a few months ago, is some information about autism in general, information about autism and crime, like more like how autistic people are typically victims of crime. Information about sensory overload, how police can reduce sensory overload, types of stimming, explanation of why eye contact can be hard for some autistic people, and why you shouldn't take eye contact for them making up drugs or something like that. And I told them a little bit about suicide and mental illness signs, because that's a big important part of police work, and because it can appear a bit differently in autistic people. And then how to communicate with autistic people, and explaining how many autistic people have slow processing. And so I think my PowerPoint is a very good first step for the officers, but I found this program in another state. It's from Maryland, and it's from the Montgomery County Police Department. And they have a really cool program. It's an autism, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and Alzheimer's outreach program. And part of what they do in that program is they have a special days where people with disabilities can specifically come and talk to the officers, and they practice police-related things, like, for instance, they practice traffic stops, practice being handcuffed or patted down, and other things like that. So if it ever has to happen in a real situation, they kind of know what to expect, and they know what parts of the body, and they might feel a little more comfortable. And then the other part is just getting the officers get to know the people in their community better, and the people get to be more comfortable with the officers, because they can just talk to them about whatever and ask any questions. So that's really what I would love to make a program like that in our town, go beyond just educating them, just because I think that would help people with disabilities be that much more comfortable with our officers. And really, we have a lot of really nice officers. And then my last thing is I'm planning to raise money to buy sensory toys for each police car. I mean, really, we would only probably need to buy 6 police cars, maybe, I think, worth a shift. So we'd have to have enough sensory toys to supply for 6 cars. And so that's my next mission, is to do a fundraiser for that, because I think if we have some sensory toys, it could just be an added bonus for the officers if they need to interact with any autistic people to help calm them. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Questions, feedback?
I think we'll just discuss it with the chief in terms of setting something up.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to set up a meeting with the chief and you, and we'll start talking about the ways that we can start. I love that you brought up a program from Maryland, because that gives us something to look at, and we can, if someone's already done it, why not steal it from them?
Yes, and those officers, they are willing to talk to anybody to help them fit in their own community.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
And also, please, when you're getting to raising money for this sensory toys, please approach the Manlius Lions Club. They're looking for a service project.
Then one more question. Are you interested in staying on this topic and being involved with us if we end up? Okay, great. Thank you.
Fantastic. Hey, next up for open podium, we have Scarlett Davidson.
Hello. I just came by to check up on the trash situation, if it's settled. It doesn't seem settled to me personally. I've not heard back from the staff. I had a call and a comment. I'm really glad that you were able to work to get the smaller bins. Unfortunately, the smaller bins do not work for me because they're still as tall as the large ones. So they don't fit in my car, so I still can't drive them down my 500-foot driveway. And so it's still a non-solution for me. I'm assuming that there's more people that are like me, not only me. I would, because it's a non-solution, and I've also inquired about alternative services in my area, and there are none. I'm thinking the only solution for me is to take my own garbage to the transfer station. So therefore, I will be losing 7 months of usable service that I paid for and I'm looking for a refund for this year. I know it's not the standard policy, but this was not a decision I could have made properly back in September of last year. I know that you have funds budgeted for the year, but I also know that people can get prorated if they want to join the trash collection service mid-year. And so you are getting funding for that, and particularly, I know you're at least getting one with 7 months because he was in line before me. So if it's a 1-for-1, I could take his.
What I was saying, like you said, it is
Sure.
policy, the way we have it. As we get more and more feedback from folks, we'll see if there's any possibilities. I can't make any promises, but you know, we're doing our best with the trash situation. And if there's any change in that, you'll definitely get something back. And I do apologize for not getting any calls back. It's just that we've got 3 employees who are working on answering all those messages, and it's just taking a little
Well,
time.
right, and so that made me suspect that I'm not the only one. I don't know if I'm assuming there's some other issues mixed in there, but I'm still assuming there's still a lot of unsolved.
I would say the majority of calls are receiving are for new enrollments, for people who weren't currently enrolled that are now becoming enrolled.
Okay,
And then folks that are requesting the smaller total. But we do have some kind of one-off issues in there, and that's exactly, I'm just trying to get a better sense of the data.
right.
so
I
we
don't want
can-
it to get lost track of, because it matters to me.
Mhm.
And then just 2 other little things. Do you post the video for the meeting each week? Like last week's didn't appear on the website.
So I'll double check the website. It should be automatically pushed. As soon as we go live, the video should be available, and then they remain available after the fact.
It was-
I didn't
Last
see a
week
little-
wasn't meeting, you mean 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
The last board meeting, there was a little Tony link.
Oh, those, I just add those as I have time, so. I don't have it. But we do have our YouTube page, so all of our videos are automatically available. The second we stop recording, YouTube processes them, and those are shareable links that you can put out there. If you're trying to share them with your neighbors or let them know about things, that's immediate. So,
That was the first place I went with.
yeah, absolutely. But if you do want to access our YouTube page, there's a little symbol at the bottom of our website. You can go right on there, and there's lots of videos on there, and you can even run them by, like, you want to see town board meetings or comprehensive planning, and sort them by lists as well.
Okay, and then also on that same page that has the link for that I'm talking about, the town of Manlius page. I believe the minutes for that meeting were incorrectly posted, like it says May 11th, doesn't say meeting.
So that could be an error. I'll
So
look
it's just
into it.
another little.
But the draft minutes, if we're gonna approve them, they always go into the agenda first, and so you might not always see the little green check marks. We typically, we may post them as drafts, but we typically don't post them until they're finalized. It just depends. There was a little bit of a lag.
I just thought it was an oversight, and I mean, I could have sent it another one, but since I'm here.
No, I appreciate it.
Okay, all right, that's it for me, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, is anyone else here for open podium? Anybody? Vicky, are you joining us for open podium? If you are, please raise your hand. Okay. So we will move on with the rest of the agenda. So first up is the public hearing for our video conferencing law. I'll need a motion to waive the public notice, or maybe waive the reading of the public notice.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the public reading of the notice for local law, or for the video conferencing law, public hearing.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. And then I need motion to
So I will
open.
make a motion to open the public hearing regarding the video conferencing law.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Okay, so Al, thank you for following this up. This is the video conferencing law that basically there was a series of executive orders that allowed us to do video conferencing outside of the existing law. And that, I believe those expired, and now we're within a grace period. So this law is being passed so that we can continue. There's a couple stipulations in there: out of town for business, sick, that type of thing, so that folks can join a meeting. We have to have a quorum. They have to be visible. The video has to work. The audio has to work. But they don't have to be in a public place, essentially.
Do you mind reading the portion or referencing the portion we updated for us based on for work? I can.
So yeah, You go for it.
So there's two things that we're looking at tonight. First is the local law that allows you to do video conferencing. Supervisors explained that. Then after we're done with that, there will be a policy
Oh, gotcha.
that we will adopt that implements some of the reasons why you would be able to use the video conferencing as opposed to being here in person.
Right, okay, great. So we wanted to
when we
make
get
clear.
that- When we get to that section, once we look at the local law, and everybody's fine with it or not fine with it, then we'll move on to the policy if the local law passes.
Awesome.
Is anyone here in attendance in person here to make a comment about our video conferencing law? Okay. Is anyone on Zoom here to make a public comment on the video conferencing law?
Like in a really apropos comment.
Any discussion that we'd like to have?
We did edit out the reference to a specific product.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. And that,
Yeah, with video conference.
I think we have some.
I don't know what the law is. This is my first introduction. So I'm not asking you to read it. Can you just tell me briefly what the change? You said it expired and we needed it.
So that was what expired was an executive order by the governor to allow us to have video conferencing meetings
During
And-
COVID.
during COVID specifically. So now we are passing a law so that we can continue to do that, which they changed.
Yeah, so because of COVID, public bodies weren't able to meet in person during the emergency of COVID. So the government, under public meeting law, you are required to meet in public.
Okay.
So we had a problem, right? The law says one thing and COVID says another thing. So the governor passed an executive order that said, instead of following the public open meeting laws, you don't have to meet in public anymore. In fact, you shouldn't meet in public anymore because of the emergency related to COVID. We should, if you have a system in place where you can video conference, so all the board members could be seen and the public can participate through the video conferencing,
Okay.
then that would be okay.
So that's going to require the public to have digital equipment so they can participate. They can't just come in the door.
No.
They can come through like we did tonight. It's to continue the hybrid process.
That was under the executive order when we didn't meet. Now we are required to meet in public again. This just allows that if you are unavailable, because it works so well, frankly.
Right, right, no, I
and
think
because
that's
the
nice for the general public, if they're ill or something, or what.
Well, that was, I think, two.
Applies to the town councilors.
What's that?
This applies to the town councilors.
Yeah, it's only for the public officials. But like, we've got our policy up there where if you're ill, you have caregiving responsibilities, some sort of disability, out of town for business obligations. So for example, I think it was 2 meetings ago or 3 meetings ago, I had COVID, but I still Zoomed in. I wasn't the most, I wasn't the sharpest I've ever been, but I was able to still attend.
But the board will still meet in person with a quorum.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that still allows people. to
It's just
still have
somebody, if somebody's out of town, they can be
still
there.
come.
Yes.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
So that's the difference between this local law and what we were able to do under executive order. This local law says you have to meet in public as a quorum. At least you have to have, in this case, 4 people available
Okay.
and in a meeting. But if you are the 5th, 6th, or 7th person, you can video conference in if you're a board member. Okay, if you meet some of the criteria that.
Yeah. This doesn't pertain to any of the streaming that we do or allowing people to attend via Zoom.
I thought that was to allow you to do the streaming. That was my first option, was to allow you, but I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anything online? Okay, so
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. A second.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Okay.
So now, the clerk has put up the local law for your review, the enacting local law, as we've just discussed. If anybody wanted to make a motion to approve local law 2022.
Yeah.
Whatever the number is gonna be, blank,
I have to look that up.
but we'll fill in that blank.
The fill in the
Oh,
blank.
I sure have it right here. Give me one moment.
And it's to create a new chapter of our code, and it's chapter 29 of our code, which is going to be entitled Town Board Policies, which we can update
As it is.
as needed.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. We are on 5.
I'd like to make a motion for the board to vote on local law 2022-5 video conference for video conferencing.
A second.
All in favor? Opposed? Carries. And then we have the,
Yes. Now, to supplement that local law that you just passed, I provided a policy, video conferencing policy guidelines that I think you've all reviewed before the last meeting. We made some minor changes in them. And what it does is it explains that if you're going to participate in a video conference, then you have to be visible. The public has to be able to interact. You have to be in a well-lit room, so everybody's got to be able to see it. But the most important component of the policy really is the justifications for attending by video conference. And that's number 4. The following justifications are acceptable reasons to participate by video conference. 1 is illness. 2 is caregiving responsibilities. 3 is disability. 4 is out-of-town business obligations. And 5 is other extraordinary circumstances. It's determined by a majority vote of the public body. So if a circumstance comes up that we just didn't think about, if this board votes that night to allow,
then we can have them come.
then we can have them.
I think this is good for the public because if I'm a snowbird and I'm not here for multiple months, it's going to be hard. It does not cover that. Even though we do have many people in the town that need to be represented who maybe are part-time residents, to be serving in that way is a little
Yeah,
harder.
this is for those extraordinary circumstances.
Extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah, that-
Especially too, with everyone getting sick so frequently now, I think it's pretty wise thing to do. Although I will say, just to remind everybody, don't take down your little COVID home theater. You know, make sure you got your backlighting, make sure you got a good background. Exactly. It's gotta be an installation of every home.
So I'd like to make a motion to adopt the video conferencing policy and guidelines.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Okay.
Thank you. Allison, thank you for putting that up there. I think we should do that.
That's good too, because that's how it streams out to everybody.
Yeah,
You got it, no problem.
it's awesome.
Okay, so next up, we have the public hearing for the shed and playscapes building permits update.
As we discussed at the last meeting, for some reason, I included in the effective date section of the local law that we passed in I think it was October of last year, that the local law would expire. The local law to increase the size of sheds and playscapes from 120 square foot to 144 square foot that wouldn't need a building permit. This board passed that local law, but in the effective section, I said it will expire in 6 months. I have no idea why it said that. So I'm just
It
cleaning
was a
that up.
pilot project.
Yeah, I guess.
Had to give it a shot.
Yeah, so
We had to go inspect all the radiuses.
that's exactly what it was. Thank you. And we've experienced this for 6 months and there's been no issues. So I recommend that we pass this local law that would eliminate the need or eliminate that section that talks about it expiring in 6 months.
So I need a motion to waive the,
So I'll make a motion to waive the reading of public notice.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
And make a motion to open the public hearing for the local law 2022-6 for shed and playscapes building permits.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Okay, so is anyone here in person to make a public comment on the shed and playscapes building permits law? Okay. Is there anybody that is joining us remotely who would like to make a public comment on the shed and playscapes building permits law? Any discussion before we close?
the pilot project was a success.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah, very generous.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Okay. Now,
So I'd like to make a motion to approve local law 2022-6 shed and playscapes building permits.
A second.
all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Okay. So next up, we have our, the bus lease, which this is the same lease that's been, yeah, several years. And this is for the recreation department to have access to the buses so they can transport kids for activities. For any questions?
Yes, I have one question. The rate, the 200 per, is that per bus or per day?
No, it's per bus.
Per bus.
So it's 300 for the summer.
That's great.
Believe it or not.
Did you say 200 for the summer? But this talks about 2 buses in it.
Well, if they use that second one. it would be
Yeah,
so it's reserved, but they make-
Per bus, per summer, so
Yeah.
generally just one, they may have to use another one.
That's
Yeah, but still.
the
So at the
agreement
most, it'll be $400.
Yeah. per year.
And then for people to know that the driver would be a bus driver.
Okay.
So not just a random town person.
They're actually bus drivers, the school district bus drivers and first.
Oh, great.
Applying for that, the town was employed.
It's an agreement. I just need permission to sign it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to allow the supervisor to sign this bus rental agreement with the school district.
A second.
All in favor? Opposed? Carries. Okay.
I'll just make a side comment that when Ruth Ann was doing the presentation, it made me think that the buses were a lot of activity and things happen. So we end up, working with the rec department to talk about having a greater awareness and training around people with disabilities. The bus driver should be included, like the staff should be included. But I think they get that. They might get that a little bit from the district, but maybe not. So.
But there's definitely an opportunity for sensory issues on bus.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
I don't know, do you guys have an air conditioning bus or do you? I know
They're the
it's
FM
built-
ones, right? Yeah, they do them. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that's an option for kids with sensory issues to go on an air conditioning bus. or some of the others.
Thank you. Okey-dokey. Next up, we have a letter of intent to send out for storm sewer mapping. Sarah, do you have?
Yeah, so Town of Manlius, along with pretty much everybody else, is a member of the Stormwater Coalition, which organizes stormwater communication and education, including a newsletter, which we get and make available to anybody who's interested in it. And its name is
Gardens and gutters.
Gardens and Gutters.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so it's available. They do other kinds of educational programming. They have come and presented to us at our stormwater study group. So they are getting money. So the MS4 storm or MS4, the municipal storm sewer something, stormwater something.
Storage.
Full separate storm sewer systems. Okay.
Yeah, separate was the other S, separate storm. So water flows from the earth and it flows from the toilet. And sometimes it mixes and we're trying to keep them separate. That's what it's for. So that's what the separate part is. So this project, they changed the law in New York State and they wanted a more refined mapping system of where are the places where the water is not staying separate. And that's going to take some people a lot of work to go track that down. So we are sharing in their money. They got the money from the state and we are letting them study Manlius to look for those places. And so that's what this letter is.
Yeah, questions?
So I make a motion to allow the supervisor to sign it.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Oh, not me. Carries. Fantastic. Okay, so next up is me. Wanted to give an update. We have been managing quite a number of trash concerns as we're moving through. We are slowly chipping away at the backlog that we've got going on. We did get a pickup of quite a few of the recycling bins, the blue recycling bins that people had dropped off both here and at the highway department. I do ask if anyone is looking to get rid of those. We are working with Oprah to try to get as many back as possible. There's a long reason behind it, but essentially they are hoping to reuse them, or in large quantities, they can actually recycle, or I think it's reclaim the resin in large quantities. So if you have broken ones or whatever state they're in, we've got pallets set up here at Town Hall and at our highway department off of Clemens Road. If you'd like to drop them off, if you want to reuse them for some other purpose, that's great. We are also taking in garbage cans that you no longer have a need for at the highway department. And it's specifically not the town hall. We're not collecting garbage cans here. Although the few that have come by, we're getting over there. And as an update as well, if you were renting a cart from Syracuse Haulers prior to this change, I believe they sent out that letter last week to schedule when they're going to be picked back up. If you haven't received it, please reach out to Syracuse Haulers. As you know, they didn't, my understanding is they didn't charge residents for those rental carts this year, but they still are looking to recover those. And then I did have one other thing that I wanted to discuss with the board. We had a really great grant management meeting, Sarah and I and Ann, and we realized that there are a lot of balls in the air at this point. So we had been looking, I had sent, my assistant Susie had sent around a couple options for like a project management software. So I went in and I priced that out, and I figured for kind of a pilot of it to see if it's something that fits us. Because I'll tell you, I get sales calls weekly about a project like this. And of course, they're made for municipalities and they cost $20,000. And so we found something that I think is going to be a really good, whether it's a transitionary to a bigger one or it's something that fits for us. The most important thing here is when it comes to grants, there's a lot of deadlines, a lot of tracking, a lot of different people we're talking to, a lot of paperwork. And so I priced that out for 4 user accounts. So that would be one for me, one for Ann, one for Sarah, and then likely one that Susie will monitor, and will essentially make it so that if you guys have stuff that you want to get on there or follow-up stuff, and we'll kind of just explore for a little while how it works with only 4 users. It comes out to, I believe, $64 a month for the 4 users.
Hive or
What's that?
which, oh, you're gonna tell us.
Hive.
Yes,
Yeah,
Hive,
Hive.
yeah.
So depending on when, if I go in and I sign up tomorrow, I'm sure it's prorated. And so I was just asking for permission to spend less than, up to $600 to go forward and use that program.
I wanted to tell you, before you do that, I want to tell you that because Susie had mentioned it, I started using it in my day life, non-town councilor life, to try it out, whatever, and it's very user-friendly.
Yeah.
It's working really, really well. So
I
I
used
think
the free trial a little bit. and
Yeah.
It's
it's very intuitive, and it's also not over complicated. It's pretty straightforward. So
yeah, and I think that was why it kind of rose to the top, is because it wasn't over engineered, but it does actually have quite a few options for viewing things. You can view them. There's a couple different process management tools that people use, or philosophies.
Yeah.
And they all have different views, so you can see that, and it's great because we don't even have to pick one as an organization. Like if you like,
I can choose my own. view.
you can
Yeah.
choose your own
view.
layout. I can see it completely different. We'll be
Yeah.
seeing the same data. It represents the
Oh,
same.
that's very nice.
if you're
I
a
like
flow chart person, if you're a Gantt chart person, if you're an Excel spreadsheet
Exactly.
it.
person.
So if you're the person just looking at when do I have to write a check, that's different from if I'm looking for who's the
Who's
who's the
contact?
contractor on this and what do they have to do? Yeah,
Exactly.
Yep.
So
very nice.
Like, does this come from the supervisor's area, town board area?
the supervisor and or the town board.
What's the name of it?
Hive.
Hive, okay, thank you.
Hive.com.
Yeah, it's an online platform, and they have free trials. So if you like it, try it out. So I would just
Preference of where it goes?
No, I don't.
we'll
But I don't think, you don't need any kind of.
no we'll figure it out wherever it makes
more
most sense.
open answer.
So you need a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign up for HUD
Yeah, basically for through the end of the year.
through December.
At $64 per month.
Shouldn't we know where it's going? What line? Yeah. What line? Should it go? Like, under the supervisor or?
Yes, yeah, we'll figure out whatever is most appropriate for it, but it'll definitely come out of the A fund.
Yeah.
that I can say with certainty.
Okay. Well, I know that.
So we're talking about up to $400.
Whoa, fees and stuff and taxes.
All right,
Oh, actually, yeah, okay, so then $384,
for the next 6 months.
including part of this
Including
month, yeah.
Will there be taxes?
No, I'm gonna have to reach out and make sure we get it tax exempt.
You probably can't, if it's not a New York State-based company.
No, we can reach out and get the paperwork done.
Okay.
So it'll just
$64 per
delay-
month,
yeah.
which equals
So my motion says up to $400 for that product.
Oh, and also they do not-for-profit pay.
I will see you, yeah.
So, well, it might be even less.
So up to $400, I think is appropriate. Motion second. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Thank you.
Okay, I have an announcement before we go on to the next thing. which I
Phenomenal.
didn't Tell you about. So I am very pleased to announce that we have a work session for July 13th at 5 PM with Professor Emmanuel Carter, who is an ESF professor of landscape architecture and is an expert in zoning philosophy, if you didn't know there was a philosophy of zoning. So we're very excited to have him, and it's going to be informing our comprehensive plan steering committee about where do we got to go from here to perhaps change how we look at land use. He's very excited to do it. It will be a work session, so he's going to preside a short presentation, and then it's really a discussion for us and steering committee members, planning board members, anybody who wants to engage.
So I think anybody who's been engaged in the comprehensive planning process, this is a very important opportunity, because really a lot of the work the comprehensive plan is doing is to inform the zoning changes we make. As I think this group has learned, zoning is very important. It's and an opportunity to refresh it, to better fit the town as it is now, but also where, we are looking in the 5 and 10 years of the comprehensive plan will be very informative, so.
And we do have a steering committee this month, which is the 21st.
Yeah, solstice.
And we also, so we have the steering committee and then we have the work session.
Yeah.
Those are the two dates, and those will both be streamed and available to,
We need a motion for the work session, right? Schedule it.
because we need to notice. the work
Yep.
session. Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion to notice the work session on July 13th at 5 PM.
Yeah, a second that.
All in favor? Alright, opposed? Carries. Anybody else have any? Sarah and I both did one, so you guys get one shot. Okay, anything else? Anything else? Okay. Just need approval of the abstract. And yeah,
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve abstract number 11. Rob, it's not on the column. Okay, so in the amount of $918,818.55, with a comment that we are deliberating a particular IT question, but we will deal with that after the abstract. So we just wanted people to know that might be a refund later, but we're not going to take it out of this. The Jagunda cost is paving.
and I do think this has the payment for gas that might be the highest payment we've ever made, I think is what I was talking to Rob and
Makes sense.
Jen and Monica about.
And
So,
so we have gas and diesel. Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I asked, you know how we got those marketing things in our mailboxes
Yeah.
for those gas cards? I saw Ann today and I was like, oh, we have this, right? Like, we don't need this. Right? She's like, oh, we have that to get, discounts.
I appreciate the tenacity.
Yeah.
So I made that motion.
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Okay. There's no other business. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Haven's not here.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.